Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
Made me nauseous, and I puked in the parking lot. He held my hair, and then we went on our date. Hey everybody, welcome to AskReddit. People ask Reddit. Couples of Reddit, what's the most unromantic thing that's happened between the two of you that actually is a stronger indication of love than others might think?
Number 1.
My husband got diarrhea so bad that it went everywhere in our bathroom, and I accidentally sat in it. I cleaned everything off, and jumped in the shower to clean his poop off while he was still going. I started puking in the shower from the awful seafood food poisoning smells. He says his time for me is us waiting in a drive-through line, and I sneezed a giant snot rocket all over my shirt and freaked out trying to hide it and find a tissue.
Number 2.
Commenter. I fell down some steps and broke both my arms. My husband wiped my butt and helped me shower/wash my hair. For weeks. For better or worse, that was definitely filed under worse. Person B. Broke my elbow while crossing a crosswalk and tripped over a speed bump. Husband had to wash my hair, actually had to dress me, couldn't put on my underwear and had to get up early to just get dressed and wash my body. I thankfully could take care of myself when I used the bathroom. I actually cried hard when I couldn't be independent while washing. But he was very supportive. We have been together for over 14 years and married for 3.
Number 3.
Commenter. When we'd been married about 10 years, 2 little kids, jobs not paying enough to cover daycare and bills, and we're having the sort of fight that these stresses can precipitate. It was a nasty one, we were not holding back with unkind things said to each other. And then the phone rang. My dad was in the hospital 1,200 miles away. He'd had a stroke, docs were unsure whether he'd live. The fight stopped and she told me to get in the car and go to the airport. She'd have tickets waiting for me at the counter. She'd call my boss and explain that I was flying across the country. Take how much time I needed, she would take care of the house and the kids and to not worry about anything but taking care of my family. Dad made it a few years after that, but now I know that no matter how hard life gets, and however much 2 volatile pig-headed jerks fight and yell, she isn't just on my team, she is my team. We'll be married 30 years this year. Life happens, and sometimes people aren't perfect, but when the world is against me, that little woman will grab my arm and we'll roar together, and nothing will break us. Person B. Absolutely perfect. This is how I view my relationship with my husband. We haven't been together nearly as long as you, but I'm hoping in 25 years we'll be the same way. Dealing with grad school, unexpected pregnancy, car breakdowns at the worst times, being fired 3 weeks after our wedding. We've been in the same situation in the middle of an argument, but something happens and no matter what we're arguing about, we set it aside and back each other. That's partnership.
Number 4.
Commenter. One time my girlfriend just said she wanted to see me but didn't want to talk to anybody after a rough day at work. So she came to my house and sat in my bed with me while I played video games until we both fell asleep. Didn't say a word other than hey when she got there, and alright bed. Love you. Person B. I'm away for work right now and had a really tough day. I called my husband, and he instantly knew something was wrong. I told him just to talk to me. He told me about his day, and when he ran out of things, he read me a Wikipedia article about different types of pastry dough. So's that can support you through the little days are the best.
Number 5.
Commenter. I grew up with my grandparents BC. Both my parents had to work various jobs simultaneously, so my grandfather was my world. I took care of him during his last 5 years, when he became bedridden. I tried to visit him as often as I could. He lived with an elderly aunt who fed him, but needed me to bathe him and, eventually, change his diapers and so on. Early in our relationship, my now wife would come over sometimes. One time I got to his house and found his fridge full and him watching TV, eating a bowl of ice cream. My wife had gone a few hours before me without telling me. 6 months later I proposed. Person B. I grew up with my grandparents as well. In 2016 my grandma had a stroke and fell down her stairs. I stopped by her house that night for something and found her on the floor. My boyfriend rushed in and picked her up and held her until an ambulance came. She died 2 weeks later, with all of us in her hospital room. I completely lost it, my knees were buckling and I couldn't breathe. He carried me outside and helped me pull it together. I'll never forget those moments. We've been together for 13 years now.
Number 6.
Commenter. My boyfriend made me go to the gynecologist to talk about getting an ablation after watching me struggle from crippling pain and bleeding every month for years. He said not to worry about money or anything else besides solving my problem. Fast forward 2 months and I got a call from my surgeon. Apparently I missed the fact that they did a biopsy when they removed my polyps and found uterine cancer. Had I been stubborn and continued to ignore my miserable periods for years, who knows what could have happened to me. No one expects uterine cancer in someone under 30. He held me while I cried, took me to every appointment, and helped me when I recovered after my hysterectomy. That dude is my rock. Person B. I hope you are doing well and are far beyond recovery. My wife was recently diagnosed with cervical cancer and has had a radical hysterectomy and is working on week 4 of 6 of chemo and radiation. She might even need more localized radiation after due to it spreading to a close lymph node. It's not romantic, it hurts, but I would do it all again for her. I would hold her when she cried, I would take her to all her appointments, and hold her while she recovers from her hysterectomy, because that's unconditional love. Cherish that relationship, they don't come around all the time.
Number 7.
My boyfriend texted me one day when he was at the gym that he believed his rectum had prolapsed. No idea how, but I started Googling what we needed to do about it. I read that if it wasn't serious, you could just push it back in before going to a doctor, instead of heading to the ER. So what do? Put on a pair of gloves, lube my finger up, and kneel in front of him while he's lying on the bed attempting to push part of his rectum back into his anus. Turns out it was just a giant effing hemorrhoid when he went to the doctors the next day. But I think that was a moment in our relationship where it was established that we both had complete comfort with each other. If your partner can try and shove part of your rectum up into your ass, then nothing is really too disgusting or gross to discuss.
Number 8.
Commenter. My husband and I often end up showering together, and one night as he was about to get in he said, "Never mind. I'll clean up and get some food ready for you and let you shave your asshole in peace." Person B. One time my fiancé caught me doing it. I nearly cut my asshole because he thought it'd be funny to sneak up on me and say, "What are you doing to that asshole?" pretty loudly. It's like pooping, I know that he knows that I do it, but I don't want him seeing it, lol.
Number 9.
Commenter. My wife and I came to understand that we can sleep apart for the sake of comfort and good rest, without it being an expression of emotional distance. Person B. When my husband and I first got married, we bought a king-size bed and our own blankets. Best decision we ever made. Saved us so much arguing. Some people I've told think it weird, but I am free to cocoon in my blankets, and he is free to only sleep under a sheet. Neither of us snore, so it works well. Person C. Sleeping separately saved my marriage when my insomnia got bad and my husband's snoring got really bad. I think it's wonderful to be able to sleep separately most of the time and still feel incredibly close to each other. Person D. My wife and I are finally getting to that point. I have a twice corrected, deviated septum and snore like a chainsaw revving up. The wife unit is a fairly light sleeper who has trouble falling back asleep once she wakes up. I keep telling her that the couch is comfy to me, and if she needs to sleep, feel free to boot me out of bed. She's finally started taking me seriously on that offer. Huzzah.
Number 10.
I have a now 12-year-old daughter who is not biologically his, however she calls him dad now and he always refers to her as his daughter. When she was about 10 he'd moved in about 6 months and we were settling into things as a family. I was working and they were home hanging out and she got her first period. I had briefly had a couple small discussions, enough that she knew what was happening. But I was pretty unsure what to do. So he handed her some toilet paper, told her the basic girl trick of putting it in her underwear, and took her to the store. He helped her pick out some pads, detoured to the ice cream, chocolate, chips and bakery section and picked up Junior Advil just in case. They settled in on the sofa and he explained the basics of how to use it. Showed her a quick YouTube video. Made up a hot water bottle for her, popped her dirty clothes on to soak. And they snuggled and she talked about it and they Googled answers if he didn't have them. I came home to them having a nap on the sofa looking like a slumber party exploded and a happy child. Probably one of the moments I've loved him the most.
Number 11.
My husband's family lived across the country and used to send us boxes of their almost new, good quality clothes that they no longer wore. The men's clothes were great for hubby and sons, but the female clothes were always a bit too small as I had gained a lot of weight since they had seen me last. My husband always felt so bad for me. Then one time, my hubby lifted up a pair of pants out of the box and said happily, "These will fit you. They're huge." I still remember the look of horror that passed over his face once he'd realized what he'd said. But I loved the fact that he was happy for me getting a new pair of pants.
Number 12.
Commenter. My so puked in the parking lot on our first date. before we even got into the restaurant. I thought she was having second thoughts because she just got out of a horrible relationship. Nope, she was on her period and it was bad enough where she would puke. We're married now. Person B. Similar story. I had missed a birth control pill on the day before our third date, so I had to take two the day of. The extra hormones made me nauseous, and I puked in the parking lot. He held my hair, and then we went on our date. Married for 8 years now. Person C. My dad also puked on his and my mom's first date, but it was when they were at the restaurant already. His vomit had blood in it because he was having some serious issues with his stomach. That was not pleasant to see for my mom, but knowing her, I think what she did back then was taking care of my dad, patting his back, telling him it's alright and maybe buy him pills or something similar. They have been married for nearly 17 years. Person D. We went to an amusement park early in our relationship. I didn't drink as much water as I should have and ate nachos for lunch. On the drive back, I get nauseous from the heat stroke and poor choice of food. I politely asked him to pull over, where I open the car door and puke on the side of the road. When I finish, he takes me to the store to get water, crackers, and mouthwash. He had the sweetest response, considering that will forever be a stain on that date. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.